Welcome back everyone. So E3 finally revealed more news about Breath of the Wild sequel, but instead of going through every single detail within the trailer, I thought today we were just going to take a look at Breath of the Wild and see some references of Skyward Sword. So yeah, here's a video about all the Skyward Sword references found in Breath of the Wild. First of all, there is dragon symbolism found in both games. We see dragon spirits in Skyward Sword and in Breath of the Wild. There are the 3 dragons seen flying around in the skies of Hyrule. There are an ancient and primordial spirits that take the form of incredible, huge, and powerful dragons that cannot be harmed by mere mortals. Now, these dragons each serve the goddess and are associated with each of the ancient springs, and these springs can be found in both games. Speaking of dragon symbolism, the Zonai tribe is littered with dragon architecture as well. I mean, check out this new tech that is seen in the recent trailer. That looks like a dragon head flamethrower seen in Link's arm. Now, the second reference is the Forgotten Temple. The Forgotten Temple may be a reference to the sealed temple found in The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword. Now, this is supported by the Loftwing statues and carvings engraved into the walls found inside the temple itself, as well as the goddess Hylia statue, which is sort of identical to the statue of the goddess in Skyloft. The third reference is a side quest that can be found in Breath of the Wild. The side quest is named Balloon Flight, and upon speaking to Shamay at the Woodland Stable, she tells Link that she'd like to see balloons fill the sky, as she believes that there is land that is up in the clouds. Once Link brings her octo-balloons, she is ecstatic and tells him to tie some to the barrels right next to her. When Link ties the balloons onto the barrels, it floats up into the sky and Shamay is overjoyed. Shamay then tells Link that her dream is to float up into the lands in the sky with a balloon and then ride on a big bird. Clearly, this is a nod to Skyward Sword. But hold on a second, did this child actually mention the lands above the sky? Now, why would a child know anything about something as important as that? Especially now that it's been seen in the recent trailer that yeah, there are indeed islands floating above the skies of Hyrule. Also, this is the only time in Breath of the Wild where lands above the sky are ever mentioned. The fourth reference shows up in the shape of a fossil that is found in Breath of the Wild, known as the Elden Great Skeleton. Now, this is a giant skeletal landmark in the Elden Mountains. They are the skeletal remains of an extinct Leviathan. Now, these consist of a flat skull and a ribcage that are particularly buried underground. A small camp of monsters have already made their home there. So, the Elden Great Skeleton becomes a point of interest during the side quest of the Leviathan Bones, where Link is sent by Akra and his brothers to take pictures of the 3 Leviathan skeletal remains found around Hyrule. Now, Akra requests a photo of the Elden Great Skeleton. Now, you're probably wondering what kind of connection this huge fossil might have to Skyward Sword. Well, for those of you who are familiar with Skyward Sword, then you should know about the great spirit Leviathan, a recurring character in the Legend of Zelda series. He is a wise, well-liked spirit who has served as the protector of the skies for ages and lives in the Thunderhead. And if you compare Leviathan's features to that of the Elden Great Skeleton found in Breath of the Wild, then you can sort of see some pretty identical similarities, but let me know what you guys think about that. Now, let's go back to Breath of the Wild's early development. Within the game's early reveal, there is a Skyward Sword reference that can be found in Link's inventory. The first and most obvious is a paraglider. The early version of the game showed Link using the Skyward Sword sailcloth to traverse across Hyrule, instead of the paraglider now present in-game, which goes to show just how much they were thinking about Skyward Sword when they were developing this game. And this is further proven now with the recent Breath of the Wild 2 trailer as well, as it clearly screams Skyward Sword. The next reference can be seen at Zora's Domain. Once you receive the Zora set armor, this will allow Link to swim up the waterfalls. Now, the armor is known to have been crafted using dragon scales. Now, this is a reference to the water dragon scales Link receives from the dragon Pharaon in Skyward Sword, which is an item that grants him similar swimming abilities. Now, there's another Skyward Sword reference within the True Master Sword cutscene. After you've conquered the trials of the sword, the Master Sword will have finally been restored to its full power, and you can also hear a familiar sound. Now, this sound is the sound of Fi, a spirit that resides within the sword called the Goddess Sword, which eventually becomes the Master Sword. The next reference is a game mechanic, the stamina gauge. Now, this is a mechanic passed down from Skyward Sword, and was later introduced to Breath of the Wild, which was known as the stamina wheel. Another little reference can be seen if you look at the dragons in Breath of the Wild. If you keep these dragons in your sight long enough, you'll notice that they go through the cloud barrier, which is an obstacle created by the goddess Hylia to separate the surface from the sky, in order to protect the flying landmass known as Skyloft. Now, when the dragons reach the cloud barrier, a whirlwind type of portal can be seen opening up, which is the very same portal as when Skyward Sword Link travels back into the surface. Now, for the final reference can be seen in the most recent reveal trailer of Breath of the Wild sequel. For one, Link can be seen skydiving in a similar fashion to his Skyward Sword counterpart. And I swear, everyone was probably expecting a Loftwing to appear and catch Link. The other important detail would be the flying island seen across the sky. And then there's that piece of hint that Eiji Aonuma shared with us, that the game will be taking place in the lands above the skies of Hyrule. And let's not forget that Skyward Sword HD is coming to the Nintendo Switch, so yeah, there's a lot of indicators and connections to Skyward Sword, perhaps playing a huge major part in Breath of the Wild sequel. Well, anyways, those were all the Skyward Sword references that could be found in Breath of the Wild. Let me know if I missed some, but thanks again for joining me today, and I'll see you guys on the next upload.